The snow is already falling by the time Tara Malone steps out of the conference room, her heels silent against the carpet in a way that feels wrong. Like even the building has stopped noticing her. She does not slam the door. She has never been the kind of person who slams doors. She just walks, past the rows of cubicles where her former colleagues keep their eyes on their screens. Past the reception desk where a young woman named Brittany once brought her coffee every morning without being asked. Past the security guard who has known her name for 4 years, and tonight pretends he does not. The elevator doors close and Tara finally exhales. 32 years old, a nursing administrator with a spotless record, 2 commendations from the hospital board, and a reference letter she wrote herself because her supervisor, Dr. Bernard Reese, could not be bothered to write one before signing her termination notice this afternoon. Effective immediately. Without cause, he said, except that cause was sitting in the chair beside him. Tara's husband, Graham Malone, who had convinced the board 3 weeks ago that Tara's mental state had become a liability. Erratic behavior, poor judgment, difficulty separating her personal life from professional responsibilities. All of it lies, all of it in Graham's handwriting, even if Bernard Reese had signed his name to it. The lobby doors open, and the November air hits her like a wall. Ottawa in late autumn. The Rideau Canal already dark and frozen at its edges. The Parliament buildings lit gold across the river. The whole city draped in the kind of cold that does not apologize for itself. Tara stands on the front steps of Meridian Health Group for exactly 4 seconds, long enough to feel the snowflakes land on her cheeks, long enough to understand that she is not going back inside. Then she starts walking. She has no destination. That is the honest truth. She has a phone with 17 missed calls from Graham and a bank account she checked this morning. Their joint account, the only one she has access to, because Graham manages everything, has always managed everything. Said it was easier that way when they married 6 years ago, and she had been naive enough to believe him. The account balance this morning was $42. She had stared at that number on her phone screen for a long time. Long enough to understand that he had moved the money already. Long enough to understand that whatever happened tonight in that conference room had been planned. Tara walks past the Byward Market, past the clusters of people spilling out of restaurants into the cold, steam rising from cups of hot chocolate, laughter carried on the wind. She walks to Busker playing fiddle outside the SAQ, his case open on the pavement, coins and small bills scattered inside. She drops her last $5 bill in without really meaning to. He nods at her. She keeps walking. She ends up on a side street near the University of Ottawa campus, a street she has never turned down before, drawn by nothing except the warm amber light coming from a ground floor window. The sign above the door reads Birchwood in simple letters, unlit, the kind of sign that does not need to announce itself. She pushes open the door and a small bell chimes. Inside, the bar is the kind of place that does not try very hard to be anything. Dark wood mismatched chairs, a long bar along one wall with bottles arranged by height rather than category, a chalkboard menu, old photographs on the walls, hockey teams, summer camps, a black and white of what looks like the canal in the 1960s. 2 men playing chess in the far corner. An older woman nursing a glass of red wine at the bar, a man near the back with his coat still on, reading something on his phone, not looking up. Tara takes a seat at a small table near the window. She sets her bag on the floor. She folds her hands on the table and looks at them. A server comes over, young, red hair pulled back, name tag that reads Gemma. Cold night, Gemma says. The coldest, Tara says, which is not true, but feels true. Can I get you something? Just tea, please. A pause. Actually, whatever you have that's warm and strong, I'll take that. Gemma comes back with a mug of tea and a small shortbread biscuit on the saucer. Tara did not ask for the biscuit. She is unreasonably grateful for it. She sits for a long time. Long enough for the chess players to finish one game and start another. Long enough for the snow outside to thicken. She pulls out her phone and looks again at the missed calls from Graham, and then at the one text she received this afternoon from her mother. Graham called me. He says you're not well. Come home, Tara. Her mother lives 40 minutes outside the city, in the house where Tara grew up, with her younger brother Jamie, who is 24 and works at a grocery store and has a diagnosis that requires expensive medication that is only partially covered by provincial benefits. It has always been Tara who made up the difference. Every month, quietly, without telling Jamie how much it cost or how she managed it, because he already carries enough guilt for a person his age. She stares at her mother's text for a long time. Then she puts the phone face down on the table. The man near the back has not moved. He is still reading, or at least he is looking at his phone, though Tara realizes after a while that he has not scrolled in several minutes. He is maybe late 30s, early 40s, dark overcoat, the kind of stillness that is not boredom, but something more deliberate. When he finally looks up, he does not look around the way people usually do when they resurface from a screen. He looks directly at her. Not in the way that men sometimes look at women sitting alone in bars. Not with that particular calculation. He looks at her the way people look at something they recognize and cannot quite place. Then he returns his eyes to his phone. Tara drinks her tea. 15 minutes later he gets up and she thinks he is leaving, but instead he walks to the bar, says something to Gemma, and then crosses to Tara's table and stops. "I apologize for interrupting," he says. His voice is quiet, the kind of quiet that does not need volume to reach you. He has a slight accent that she cannot immediately place. Not strong, just a softening at the edges of certain syllables. "Gemma mentioned you've been sitting here a while. I asked her to bring you another tea, but she said you might not accept it from her if you knew I'd paid for it. So I thought I'd just tell you myself." Tara looks up at him. "Why would you do that?" "Because it's a bad night, and you're clearly having it." The simplicity of the answer catches her off guard. No flattery, no performance of concern, just a plain observation stated plainly. "I'm fine," she says. He tilts his head slightly. He turns to go, and something in Tara, some part of her that has been performing fine for 6 years and is exhausted by it, says, "You can sit down if you want." He sits. His name is Calder Vance. He tells her this without extending his hand first, which she notices, as if he already understands that she is not quite ready for the formality of a handshake. He tells her he owns a logistics firm based out of Toronto, but spends roughly half the month in Ottawa, for reasons he describes only as business-related, which is the kind of vague answer that under other circumstances she might push back on. Tonight she does not push. "What do you do?" he asks. "I was a nursing administrator," she says. The past tense costs her something, until about 3 hours ago. He does not say "I'm sorry" or "that's terrible" or any of the things people say to perform sympathy. He just says, "What happened?" And because he asks it so directly, she tells him, not everything, not the whole 6 years of it, but the shape of it. The marriage that felt like a partnership until she understood it was a cage with very polished bars, the husband whose charm was indistinguishable from control until the two became the same thing. The way it had ended not with a fight or a revelation, but with a piece of paper in a conference room and a bank balance of $42. Calder Vance listens. He does not interrupt. He does not offer solutions or parallels from his own life. He asks one question when she pauses too long. "Is there someone you can stay with tonight?" "My mother," Tara says. 40 minutes out. But Graham has already called her. He's already. She stops. He's very good at managing how things look, meaning she believes him, meaning she doesn't know what to believe, which is almost the same thing. Calder is quiet for a moment. Then he reaches into his coat pocket and sets a card on the table between them. It is a simple card, a name, a number, and the words Vance Group in small type. "I have a colleague who handles corporate legal disputes," he says. "But she also does family law. She's the best I've ever encountered, which is saying something because I've encountered a lot of lawyers." He pauses. "She has an emergency line. If tonight becomes the kind of night where you need someone in your corner who isn't related to you or connected to your husband, that number will reach her." Tara looks at the card. "Why would you give this to a stranger?" Calder picks up his coffee, which has gone cold, and finishes it anyway. "Because I was in a position once where someone gave me a resource I didn't know I needed, and I didn't use it, and it cost me more than I can explain in a bar on a Tuesday night." He sets the cup down. "I don't like watching people make the same mistake." Tara pockets the card. They talk for another hour. About nothing consequential. A documentary they have both seen. The particular cruelty of Ottawa winters. Whether the Senators have any hope this season. They agree. Doubtful. Tara notices that for the duration of this hour she does not think about Graham or the bank account or the look on Bernard Reese's face this afternoon. She notices this the way you notice that a headache has lifted, only once it already has. When she finally stands to leave, Calder stands too. "The hotel on Rideau Street takes walk-ins," he says. "It's not far. I know it." A pause. "Thank you. For the tea. And the other thing, use the number if you need it," he says. Day or night. She means it when she says that. Outside, the snow has thickened into something genuine. Tara walks 2 blocks to the hotel and checks in with her credit card, the personal one she has been paying from a small account she opened 3 months ago at a different bank, in her maiden name, with the $2,800 she has been setting aside in increments, small enough that Graham would not notice. She does not know yet that this small act of quiet planning is the thing that will save her. She checks into her room, sits on the edge of the bed, and reads her mother's text again. Then she calls her brother instead. Jamie picks up on the second ring, which is how she knows he has been waiting. "Tara," he says, "I heard. From Mum, which means from Graham. What did he tell her?" A pause. She can hear him choosing his words carefully. "That you'd been struggling. that he was worried, that he'd tried to get you help but you kept refusing it. Another pause. I didn't believe him. The relief of this is physical. Thank you. Where are you? A hotel? I'm fine. I need a few days to figure out the next step. Do you need money? No. She does not tell him about the account. She does not want him to feel responsible for any of it. I just wanted you to know I'm all right. Don't tell Mum where I am. She'll worry, I know. But Graham will ask her and she'll tell him. And then She stops. Just a few days, Jamie. That's all I need. He is quiet for a moment. Then, you've been covering for me for a long time, you know. The medication. The difference between what the benefits pay and what it actually costs. I'm not stupid, Tara. I've known. She does not say anything. Let me cover for you for once, he says. Whatever you need. She stays in the hotel for 3 days. The first night she does not sleep, which is normal. She goes through everything she has. The documents she photographed on her phone over the past 2 months, bank statements, property records, an email she found accidentally that she was never supposed to see. She had not known at the time what she was building. She had told herself she was just being careful, just being organized, the way she has always been at work, the way Graham always said was one of her less attractive qualities. On the second morning, she calls the number on Calder Vance's card. A woman answers, sharp voice, professionally warm. Ingrid Halvorsen. My name is Tara Malone. Calder Vance gave me this number. A brief pause, and then the warmth becomes something more precise. Ms. Malone, yes, tell me what's happening. She tells Ingrid Halvorsen everything she could not tell Calder, the full 6 years of it. Ingrid listens in a way that is completely unlike how most people listen, not waiting for a pause to speak, not making small sounds of sympathy, just taking it in, all of it, with a focus that feels almost clinical and is, under the circumstances, exactly what Tara needs. When Tara finishes, Ingrid is quiet for 3 seconds. Then the email you photographed, do you still have the image? Yes. Good. Don't send it to anyone. Don't print it. Don't discuss it with anyone except me. Where are you staying? Tara tells her, I can be in Ottawa by Thursday. Can you stay where you are until then? Yes, I'll need everything you have, all of it. And I need you to not speak to your husband or anyone connected to him until we meet. A pause. This is going to be complicated, Miss Malone. Graham Malone has a lawyer on retainer who I have faced before. He's good. But you have something he doesn't. What's that? Evidence, Ingrid says crisply. We'll talk Thursday. The call lasts 40 minutes. When it ends, Tara sits in the hotel room and feels something she has not felt in so long she barely recognizes it. Agency. She has a name for what is happening. She has someone on her side who is better at this than Graham's people. She has $2,000 left in her account, which is not enough, but is not nothing. And she has a brother who knows the truth, and a piece of evidence on her phone that she photographed on a Wednesday afternoon 6 weeks ago, without knowing why, guided by nothing except the quiet instinct that had been trying to speak to her for years. On Thursday morning, Ingrid Halvorsen arrives. She is not what Tara expected. She is in her early 50s, silver-haired, wearing a coat that looks expensive in the way of someone who buys things to last rather than impress. She shakes Tara's hand firmly and gets immediately to the point, because, as she will explain later, she charges by the hour and does not believe in wasting her client's money on pleasantries. They work for 5 hours at the small desk in the hotel room. Ingrid goes through everything: the photographs, the account history, the timeline Tara has written out on hotel stationery, the record of the termination meeting, and the names of everyone present. By the end of the afternoon, Ingrid leans back in her chair and takes off her reading glasses. Your husband made a significant strategic error, she says. What do you mean? He moved too fast. People like Graham Malone, and I've dealt with enough of them to recognize the type, they become overconfident once they believe they've secured their position. He froze your joint account before filing any legal paperwork. He contacted your employer before initiating any formal proceedings. She taps the desk. That's not a careful person protecting himself. That's a person who believed you had no resources and no recourse and acted accordingly. He was almost right, Tara says. Almost, Ingrid agrees. But the email is significant. If this communication shows what you say it shows, it demonstrates deliberate coordination between Graham and Bernard Rees prior to your termination. That is potentially actionable on several grounds: wrongful dismissal, defamation, and depending on how the financial picture develops, economic abuse under the family law framework. Tara stares at her. Can you actually pursue all of that? Ingrid looks at her steadily. Miss Malone, I've been doing this for 22 years. I can pursue a great deal. She stays in the hotel for another week. Ingrid files emergency motions. The joint account is frozen by court order before Graham can touch the remainder. The house, which is in both their names, which Graham had apparently forgotten in his haste to act, becomes a point of legal contention that his lawyer, good as he is, cannot resolve quickly. Tara speaks to her mother. This is the hardest conversation of the whole week. Harder than anything with Ingrid. Harder than reading Graham's texts, which have shifted from conciliatory to threatening and back again in a pattern she now recognizes as textbook. Her mother listens. Then she cries. Then she says, "I should have known. You couldn't have. He was very careful around you. I should have seen Mum." Tara keeps her voice steady. "He fooled me. He had 6 years and full access, and he fooled me. You had Sunday dinners." A silence, and then quietly, "What do you need?" "A place to stay. For a while. Until things settle. Come home," her mother says immediately. "You come home right now." She goes home. The house she grew up in is smaller than she remembers, as childhood houses always are. The kitchen smells of coffee and the wood-burning stove that her father installed before he died, and her mother has refused to replace. Jamie is waiting at the kitchen table when she arrives, and he stands up when she comes in and hugs her the way he used to when they were kids, long and without any of the awkwardness that grown siblings sometimes carry. She cries, which surprises her. She has not cried in weeks. She cries for a while, and her mother puts tea on, and her brother sits beside her and doesn't say anything, which is exactly right. She thinks, sitting there, "I forgot this existed. I forgot there was a place where people simply know you and don't require anything of you and put tea on without being asked." Graham had told her, over the years, that her family was a source of stress in her life. He had told her that her mother was too demanding, that Jamie was a burden she enabled, that coming home for holidays made her anxious. He had been so convincing about it that she had almost believed it. She had reduced her visits, made excuses, sent money when she could not come herself. She understands now that this was not an accident. A week passes, 2 weeks. The legal proceedings move in increments that feel slow but that Ingrid assures her are actually swift by the standards of family law. Graham gives interviews. He is very good at interviews. He frames himself as a concerned husband whose wife has been led astray by. He is vague about this, but the implication is clear: opportunistic people with unclear motives. He suggests, without quite stating it, that Tara is being manipulated. He uses the word vulnerable twice. The local news picks it up briefly. Tara sees her own face used as an illustration. She does not watch it twice. Calder Vance texts her 3 weeks after their meeting at Birchwood, a message that is characteristically brief. "Ingrid mentioned you're in good hands. I'm glad." Tara reads this several times before responding. Then, "She's extraordinary. Thank you for the number." "She is," he replies. "How are you otherwise?" She thinks about the question seriously, the way she has learned to think about questions since this all began. "How is she, otherwise?" "Better than I expected," she writes back. "Good," he says. "Ottawa is quiet in December. If you want company that doesn't involve legal strategy, I'm here until the 18th. She does not respond immediately. She sits with the message for 2 days, which she would not have done 6 months ago. 6 months ago, she would have answered quickly, the way she did everything, efficiently, without lingering, because Graham always said that hesitation was a kind of weakness. On the 3rd day, she writes, "There's a cafe near the Byward Market. Wednesday at 7, if you're free." He is free. She arrives first, which she prefers. The cafe is warm and too bright, the kind of place that compensates for the winter outside with an excess of yellow light. She orders a coffee and sits with her coat still on, watching the door. When Calder Vance comes in, he is wearing the same dark overcoat as the night they met. He spots her immediately and crosses the room without looking around first, which she has noticed before. This quality of his, the way he moves through spaces as if he already knows what is in them. He sits down across from her and says, "You look different, better or worse." He considers this with a seriousness that she has come to appreciate. "More like yourself," he says. "Whoever that is, I'm still figuring that out. That's the right answer." They order food. They talk for 3 hours, which is longer than either of them planned. He tells her about the logistics firm, which, she gradually understands, is larger and more complex than the word logistics suggests. With contracts in 6 provinces, a team of 47 people, and a side interest in a small social enterprise that trains warehouse workers for project management roles, which he mentions almost accidentally, as if it is incidental, which tells her it is important. She tells him about nursing's administration, what she actually did, which is not what most people assume when they hear the title. The system's thinking of it, the way a hospital floor is a kind of living document that requires constant editing, the particular satisfaction of fixing something that no one else had noticed was broken. "You miss it," he says. "Parts of it, the parts Graham didn't touch." She looks at him. He does not look away. "Yes," she says, "the parts Graham didn't touch." It is the first time she has said his name out loud without the weight of the past 6 months behind it. It is just a name. A person who made choices, not a verdict on her judgment or a sentence she is still serving. There are other hospitals, Calder says. I know, Ingrid will clear your record. That's not a question. I know that too. He waits. I'm not ready yet, she says. To think about what's next, I need to finish what's now first. Calder nods. He refills her coffee from the small carafe on the table without asking, which is the kind of thing she has realized she notices now. Small gestures, who does them? What they cost the person doing them. Graham was generous with grand gestures. He was not generous with small ones. Then finish what's now, Calder says simply. I'll be here. She does not tell him what those words mean to her. She files them away instead, like the documents on her phone, like the $2,800, like her brother's voice saying, let me cover for you for once. Small things that turned out to be the infrastructure of survival. January comes. The divorce proceedings are difficult in the way Ingrid said they would be. Graham's lawyer is skilled and relentless. Graham himself is controlled in a courtroom in the same way he was controlled in their marriage. Precise, convincing, performing concern for an audience. She watches him from across the room and feels something she's been waiting to feel. Nothing. Not the anger she expected, not the grief, not the old pull of wanting to believe him. Just nothing, the way a healed place is nothing. Smooth where there used to be damage. Still there, but finished. The email she photographed is admitted as evidence. It is, as Ingrid described, significant. Graham's own lawyer seems surprised by it, which tells Tara it was something Graham had not disclosed to him, which tells her something else about the marriage, that Graham kept secrets from everyone, not just her. On the day the settlement is finalized, Tara sits outside the courthouse on a bench in the February cold, her breath making small clouds in the air. Ingrid has already moved on to her next call. The building behind her contains the end of something that took 6 years to build and 18 months to dismantle. It's done, she says. He exhales so loudly she can hear it clearly over the phone. Are you okay? Yes. She means it. I think I actually am. What do you do now? I don't know yet. She looks up at the sky, which is perfectly clear and pale blue, the particular color of a Canadian winter afternoon when the light comes sideways and makes everything look momentarily beautiful. Something good. That's a solid plan, Jamie says. She laughs, which surprises both of them. Spring comes slowly, as it always does in Ottawa, grudging, incremental, the kind of spring that keeps threatening to reverse until suddenly, around the 3rd week of April, it commits. The canal thaws, the market opens back up. The city shakes itself out like a dog after a swim and decides to be pleasant for a while. Tara takes a position at a clinic affiliated with the University of Ottawa. A smaller role than her previous one, shorter hours, a team of 8 people instead of 40. She took it deliberately. She wanted to remember why she got into this work before she went back to the scale of work she is capable of. Her supervisor is a doctor named Yasmin, who on the first day said, I've read your file. What happened to you was wrong, and it is not in this building. Tara had almost cried again, which was becoming a habit she was making peace with. Calder Vance is in Ottawa through April. His firm has a contract that keeps him in the city, which he mentions in a way that suggests it is not entirely accidental. They have dinner twice a week, which becomes 3 times, which one evening becomes him cooking in his rented apartment on Elgin Street, while she sits on the kitchen counter and reads aloud from a novel they have both been working through, passing it back and forth chapter by chapter like a strange relay. He is a better cook than she expected. He tells her he learned in his 30s, after years of eating badly, which is how she learns that he also went through something. Not a marriage, but a partnership, both personal and professional, that ended badly and cost him more than he has detailed. You don't have to tell me, she says one evening when he stops in the middle of a sentence. I know, he says, I want to. I just want to do it right. She understands this. She has spent months doing the same thing, learning to tell her own story with accuracy rather than shame, with context rather than performance. Learning that telling the tale is not a confession, it is just what happened. He tells her over the course of several evenings, in the same incremental way she told him hers. Not because either of them is withholding, but because some things take time to say. The partnership that was built on a foundation that only looked solid. The moment he understood it had been hollow for years. The particular loneliness of recovering from something you helped build, even if you did not build the rot inside it. Tara listens the way he listened to her in Birchwood last November, fully, without offering solutions, without performing understanding. You're very good at that, he says when he has finished. At what? Listening, like you're actually there. Someone did it for me when I needed it, she says. I'm paying it forward. He looks at her for a long moment. Then he sets down what he is doing and crosses the kitchen and stands in front of her, and she realizes she has known this was coming for several months, the same way she knew the spring was coming even in the worst weeks of February. I'm not in a hurry, he says. I just want you to know I'm here. not as someone looking out for you, as someone who, he stops, as someone who would like to know what comes next. Tara slides off the counter and stands in front of him. "I'd like that too," she says. Outside, the Ottawa spring is doing its slow, stubborn work. The lilacs along the side streets are beginning to bud. The light lasts past 7 now, then 8, the city extending its days the way it always does once it has decided winter is over. On a Saturday in June, Tara's mother comes to the city for the first time in 3 years. Tara picks her up from the train station, and they walk on the canal in the afternoon light, past the locks and the converted warehouses, and the people sitting on patios, as if they have forgotten that 4 months ago this same path was ice. Her mother holds her arm the way she used to when Tara was young, and they walk to church on Sunday mornings, a small habitual gesture that says everything without saying anything. "You look like yourself again," her mother says. Tara thinks about this. Better than before, actually. How? She considers the question. How to explain that going through the worst of something does not only cost you, that it also reveals things, that you come out knowing more precisely who you are, and who you are not, and what you will and will not accept. That the $2,800 and the photographed email and the phone call to Ingrid Halvorson were not just survival strategies. They were choices that told her something about herself she had been too buried to see. "I know what I'm made of now," she says finally. "I didn't know before." Her mother squeezes her arm. They walk the rest of the way in a companionable silence, past the locks and the embassies and the early tourists, taking photographs of the Parliament buildings across the river, the whole long afternoon ahead of them. That evening, Tara sits on the steps of the house on Elgin Street, where Calder is staying, waiting for him to get back from a late meeting. The air is warm and still. Someone 2 houses down is barbecuing, the smell of it drifting through the street like a signal that the year has turned. She is not afraid of what comes next. That is the difference, she realizes. Not that things are easier, or simpler, or free of complication. They are not. There is still the residue of the past to move through. There will be days when she is tired or angry or catches herself bracing for criticism that does not come. There will be mornings when she has to remind herself deliberately that the person she is now is not the person who smiled through pain in a conference room while her own husband handed someone a pen to end her career. But she is not afraid. She knows who is in her corner. She knows what she is capable of. She knows that she walked out of a place that was ending her, on a night when she had $42 and nowhere to go, and found her way to a warm room and a strange man who listened, and a card that turned into a lawyer who turned into a life. Second chances are real. She is sitting on one. The front door opens and Calder comes out to join her, loosening his tie, sitting down beside her on the steps without asking if there is room. There is always room. That is the thing about people who are actually good for you. They make space rather than take it. "How was your day?" he asks. "Long," she says. "Really good." He leans back on his hands and tilts his face up toward the last of the evening light. Tara watches him for a moment, this complicated and careful man who walked across a quiet bar on a Tuesday night in November and said, plainly, that she was clearly having a bad one. She puts her head on his shoulder. The city settles around them into the particular quiet of a summer evening, the distant sound of the canal, the voices from 2 streets over, the whole long Ottawa dusk that refuses to end. Tara closes her eyes and stays.